the way the murder was investigated at the start as a potential murder-suicide, and now the lack of resources, to me, it's concerning.
That's Kevin Donovan, a journalist with the Toronto Star, speaking about his ongoing investigation into the unsolved murders of Barry and Honey Sherman. 3.5 years have passed now since their bodies were discovered in their Toronto home. They'd been posed in a macabre position, tied to the railing of their basement swimming pool. The mysterious deaths of the Canadian Jewish billionaire couple shocked the country, and especially the Jewish community, where they'd been influential and donated millions over the years. Toronto police have said they have a theory of who the killer or killers are, but it's been Toronto journalist Kevin Donovan's research that has led to major revelations about what the public knows about the Shermans these past few years. This is what Jewish Canada sounds like for Tuesday, May 25th, 2021. I'm Ellen Besner. Welcome to the CJN Daily, sponsored by Metropia. After Barry and Honey Sherman were killed on the first day of Hanukkah in 2017, their bodies lay undiscovered until a real estate agent who was showing their Toronto house to prospective clients stumbled across the horrifying scene in the indoor pool area. The couple had met Wednesday evening in Barry's office inside the headquarters of Apotex, the Canadian generic drug manufacturing empire he'd founded in 1974. Sherman was the 12th richest man in Canada, worth at the time about $4 billion personally, although he was notoriously frugal, driving old cars, and preferring to give the money away. Coming up, author and journalist Kevin Donovan tells us why he spent years researching the open case and his latest discoveries. But first, here's what's making news now in Canada. Toronto police have charged a rabbi after red paint was poured on the steps of the Israeli consulate in downtown Toronto. The protest happened Friday morning, hours after a ceasefire went into effect between Israel and Hamas. Organizers, including independent Jewish voices, wanted to symbolize Palestinian blood being spilled in the recent conflict. 69-year-old David Mivasser of Hamilton has been charged with mischief under $5,000. In other news, the Association of Canadian Jewish Studies has named Toronto historian Franklin Bialystok the winner of the Louis Rosenberg Award. Bialystok received the award for his lifetime of scholarly work into Canada's Jewish history. And speaking of awards, Drake has won the Billboard Artist of the Decade award. The Toronto-born musician accepted the award Sunday night during a ceremony in Los Angeles. His mother, Sandy Graham, was also there, maybe to keep an eye on her grandson, Drake's 3-year-old son, Adonis. Drake even brought his son on stage with him at the award ceremony, and he dedicated the award to him. But Adonis seemed a little overwhelmed by all the noise and the lights, and he burst into tears and then wrapped his arms around Champagne Pappy's legs.
We turn to that murder mystery that has gripped Canada.
Tonight, the mystery deepening behind the double homicide of one of the world's richest...
When news that Barry and Honey Sherman's bodies had been discovered trickled out on Friday, December 15, 2017, police first reported that it looked like a murder-suicide. But the Shermans' 4 children and other family and friends refused to believe it, and the family ordered a second private autopsy. Eventually, it was Kevin Donovan's reporting for the Toronto Star that confirmed it was indeed a double murder. Donovan's been going to court regularly on behalf of the Star to try to get the judge to order Toronto police to unseal reams of documents, especially search warrants, that would reveal what the ongoing investigation looks like. His latest success came last week, and he joins me now. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me on.
So the latest information that came out of the court documents showed that the detectives have gone to a second international country. They've also had some new information from previously interviewed witnesses in the generic term. Do you know who those 3 are?
I have a hunch who they are, but I have not reported on it in the Star, so that means I'm not entirely sure. I do know that the 3 witnesses, and you're right to flag the word witness. We think of a witness as somebody who saw something. A witness is anybody who has information for police. They just use that generic term. What happened is between last November and February of this year, 3 individuals who had been interviewed in the early days emailed police and then provided information either by email or in one case, a hard copy was sent to the police. They've not been re-interviewed, which I find interesting. And you raise a good point about the international aspect of it. Last fall, police went to one jurisdiction. Turns out they didn't find what they were looking for, and now they've gone to another. Police won't say what the jurisdictions are, but they will say that those two jurisdictions are, and they're different jurisdictions, are one of 35 countries that have a certain type of legal treaty with Canada. And so they range from, Israel to China, the United States, and I think the police should be able to tell us what that country is, but so far they're not.
I got the impression from the book that right after the murders and in the early parts of the investigation, family members and others connected to the Shermans felt that they might also be in danger. And some people hired extra security. Is that still the case?
It's certainly the case that people have said that they are in danger. Jonathan Sherman, the son, who I've interviewed, he has a team of security guards that follow him everywhere. Certainly at his compound, and the other members of the family, the other siblings, the three sisters. At least one of them has security, and I know that for a fact. The others, I'm not sure. Aunt Mary had security, doesn't anymore. Jack Kay, who was Barry's second in command, very close friend, had security until the day he was walked out the door. He no longer has security. So there certainly are people who said that they are concerned. Jonathan has told me that he is concerned. He's told me that the things that he's discovered make him very, very nervous for his safety.
Now, there's one police officer doing this full time, as you've said, with some help from his supervisor. How does that look to the community and the family?
Well, I mean, there's two ways to look at that. I've written a full story about that because I think it is really, really important. And Detective Constable Yim, 15-year police officer, I think he is good at his job, but I put it to him on the witness stand, would you like some help? And he said, well, help would always be helpful, but I'm okay right now. I think there's between 60 and 90 murders in Toronto a year, and this has been 3.5 years. And it is understandable that the resources would have to be cut back. I think they should have at least a second officer working full-time on this. Constable Yim, although he has done some interviews, I don't think that's his primary ability. I think he's somebody who analyzes the data and prepares search warrants. I think we may learn one day that there's a reason for this, that police, their theory, they've said they have a theory that they're just trying to get this one piece of information, and this is just the best way to get it, and they think they're going to get it. I think we may learn that, but from the outside looking in, it doesn't look great that this high-profile murder, two very well-known people important to the community, the way the murder was investigated at the start as a potential murder-suicide, and now the lack of resources, to me it's concerning. But there are other murders that deserve attention as well.
And what has your relationship been since you started doing this with the Jewish community, especially in Toronto? What have you learned from all your meetings with everybody about this case?
They've been very positive. I haven't had anybody say, stop doing what you're doing. I keep in very close contact with really close friends of the Shermans, and I've learned a lot from them. They're all just super nice people, and I often talk about my experiences with my wife, who's quite interested in this case, and what I often talk about is just the interesting lives that all these people have, and how upset they are that the case is unsolved and that they miss Barry and Honey. I never knew Barry and Honey. I really grew to like them through the reporting, and I hope that shows in the book. I think a lot of media and people in the various communities have not treated them very well by talking of them. I mean, I'll get people who call up and say, "Oh, they're just terrible," and I don't believe that's the case. I think they're eccentric. I think they knew how to drive a hard bargain, and I think they're nice people.
All right. So finally, what are we expecting? You said you're going to have a decision maybe in the next week or so from the hearing you were with on Friday. That's your next steps, and waiting for the Supreme Court decision on the estate, right?
Yeah, and the Supreme Court, it's now, we argued that case last October. It's been quite a while. I don't think it'll go an entire year, but looking at the Supreme Court docket and trying to get a sense of how they rule, I feel it could be coming up in a couple of months. So first the search warrant request, and then the Supreme Court, and then other elements of the story that I'm pursuing, and we'll write about. Each time I can prove something, I write about it.
All right, Kevin. Thank you so much for sharing this with us today.
Thanks for having me on.
And that's what Jewish Canada sounds like for this episode of the CJN Daily, sponsored by Metropia: integrity, community, quality, and customer care. I'm Ellen Besner, and you can reach me at ebesner@thecjn.ca. I should tell you that our sponsor, Metropia, is married to Senator Linda Frum, and she was close friends with the Shermans, and she appears in Kevin Donovan's book, The Billionaire Murders. But they were not involved in any way with the making of this episode of the CJN Daily. And we'll end the episode with Drake's billboard speech, and then you can hear when he stops and picks up his son for a hug.
To my beautiful family, and to you, I want to dedicate this award to you.